Well, happy Tuesday. It's time for this week's video. Get ready. You know, in my Christian experience, there's this idea of attaining perfection. There's a hint of this motivation in Catholicism, and it's a little bit stronger maybe in the monk communities and things like that, monasteries. In a lot of the evangelical areas, there is also this desire to attain perfection. And then if you get into like charismatic and Pentecostals and ultra-Pentecostals and ultra-Pentecostal holiness and ultra-holiness churches, perfection then becomes a really big deal on attaining perfection. The common thread that seems to run through all of these desires to attain perfection, to be perfect before God, they all seem to want to resort to the commandments of the Bible and how to best live by them to present oneself perfect to God. It's a fallacy, it's a foolish attempt, and it was proven wrong thousands of years ago. It was actually established to prove wrong thousands of years ago. And so let me explain something. We know Jesus was perfect. Hebrews talks about this whole perfection thing throughout the book, throughout the epistle. But let's start out with what really is considered perfect and how that all came about. Because in Hebrews chapter 2, it kind of starts into this. Verses 9 through 11, it says, "But we see Jesus, who was made a little lower than the angels for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honor, that he by the grace of God should taste death for every man. For it became him, for whom are all things, and by whom are all things, in bringing many sons unto glory, to make the captain of their salvation perfect through sufferings." Jesus was made perfect through sufferings. And as we go on further through Hebrews, you find out that he became the perfect high priest, and he was the perfect sacrifice. And up until Jesus, we had never had a perfect high priest, nor a perfect sacrifice. Verse 11, "For both he that sanctifieth and they who are sanctified are all of one, for which cause he is not ashamed to call them brethren." Okay. So, Jesus was perfected in his sufferings, became the perfect sacrifice, and tasted of death for every man, so that every man would be sanctified, and they are all of one, meaning they are now, they whom he tasted death for are now his brethren, equal with him. So, throughout Hebrews again, chapter 5, chapter 6, chapter 7, chapter 9, chapter 10, all through Hebrews, God is showing how perfection was attained, and that we do not attain it on our own. In Hebrews chapter 10, verse 14, it says, "For by one offering," that's Jesus, he was the offering, he was the sacrifice, "he hath perfected forever them that are sanctified." Who are sanctified? Every man, because he tasted death for every man. Therefore, he has perfected every man, every human being. See, perfection is not what we do, how we live, what we say, what we think. Perfection is who we are. And that goes all the way back to chapter 2, where he himself, having sanctified everyone, called us brethren, equals. See, the only perfection that God was ever looking for was God in us. Not our actions, not our deeds, not our holiness. None of that qualifies for God as being perfect. Being perfect is being one with God. So, you cannot attain what you've already got. You are perfect. I am perfect. Every human being who has ever lived is perfect because of what he did in tasting death for every man. It's revolutionary, I know. Have a revolutionary week.